Welcome everybody, welcome to our viewers on Torah Time. The shiur that came up this week is about a colostomy bag. If somebody, unfortunately, let's say has either colorectal cancer, Rahman al-Islam, or diverticulitis or Crohn's disease or a ruptured colon, they have to have a device inserted which allows the excrement to go out. Instead of going out to the orifices in the body, it goes out into the bag. And the shiur is, are you let it daven when you have that bag? And the halacha is based on a Gemara and Brachos and a Shulchan Aruch that we're not allowed to daven in the presence of feces, and whether that's both types of feces, one is not allowed to daven in the presence of, and if one doesn't see it and it's in the but it's still within the presence of the person, then the halacha is that it has to be 4 amos away, which is approximately 10 feet. If one does see it, if it's in the proximity of the person, the mamash in the vicinity of the person, and one could see it, then it doesn't make a difference what the distance is. Unless it's in another room, that's a machlokes. Perhaps if it's another room, it's okay. But that's the halacha. Now, as far as feces are concerned, this is in regards to human excrement. Animal excrement may be different. Difference between dog and cat excrement, because cat is more similar to human feces than dog feces being similar to human feces, but that itself is a machlokes. But the halacha is, as far as the colostomy bag, as far as davening with the colostomy bag, again, we should all be spared from such a trial. Is the halacha is that if the colostomy bag is covered and it is rendered clean, then a person is allowed to daven with the colostomy bag. As far as saying Ashiyotzar is concerned, usually with the colostomy bag, a person cannot track how many times a person is using the bathroom. So therefore, the best thing to do is to say Ashiyotzar once during the day. But if a person is aware, the person is able to track and monitor how frequent they're using the bathroom, how often they're using the bathroom, they should say then Ashiyotzar each time, assuming that they could make the bracha. Again, assuming that the bag, that the device is covered, assuming that if it's emptied, obviously, then it's not a shiloh. But very often it's not emptied, or they have to wait for the nurse to come empty it. That itself is very uncomfortable and compromising. But again, halacha l'maisa, if it's clean, if it's covered, then even though it's in the presence of the person, and it's certainly within Daled Amos of the person, it's connected to the person's body, then the person could still make the bracha. This is based on Tshuvas in the Tzitz Eliezer, Tshuvas in the Mincha Shloima, and many poskim can discuss it. There are those that are more machmir, but one can certainly rely upon the makilim, because a person has a yearning, a person has a special connection to Hashem, and they want to daven, they don't want to be reft of the davening, deprived of the davening, simply because they have a colostomy bag.
They have to wash their hands before they make the bracha?
So preferably they should, yeah. But again, it's not the same, because some poskim discuss the fact that this is not, since this is not the normal procedure, it's not the normal method of a person excreting or defecating, therefore it may not involve the same chumras as far as washing hands. Yeah.
Are the halachas the same for urine also?
Yes. Yeah.
I thought the whole point of Ashiyotzar is thanking Hashem that all your body, all the machines are working as expected. Here the guy's sick in bed. Why is he thanking Hashem? He's on the machines.
No, excellent point. But Chas V'Shalom, at least Baruch Hashem, a procedure was done to enable him to be able to use the bathroom. If he was,
brings to the whole question of like life.
I'll never forget. I was in a hospital once visiting somebody. Pastorally, I was in a hospital visiting somebody, and a woman was just, and she wasn't, a lot of these hospital gowns, and it's a big critique I have against the system, because the hospital gowns really don't cover them appropriately, and it's denigrating, and it's not within covered abrius. It's not with something that is appropriate to protect and preserve the dignity and the honor of the person, these hospital gowns. And she's running around, parading around, screaming in pain, agonizing pain, and I felt like no one was giving her attention. And you do see a lot of these institutions, a lot of these rehab centers, nursing homes, hospitals, where they're very derelict, unfortunately, and they don't have the sufficient compassion and care. So I went to the nurse station, I went to the doctors, and I said, please, don't you see this woman needs help? I'm not equipped to help her. And they said, no, leave her, she's fine. And it bothered me very much, but it turns out, so I asked her, I said, please, maybe I could help you, what is it? Turns out that she had a kidney stone. She had a blockage, and she couldn't urinate. And that pain alone, so something, she wasn't terminally ill, she wasn't chronically ill, she had a kidney stone, she had a blockage. Rabbi said, you have no idea. Every time a person goes to the bathroom, they should say Hallelujah. They should jump and sing and dance. Don't do it in public because people may label you as insane, especially if you have children in shidduchim. Don't do it, or children that will be in shidduchim soon. Be very, very careful. But today, I think, liberal society, Western culture, anything goes. That's why you could dress any way you want. What?
Not in shidduchim.
Not in shidduchim, no. Right.
Even if you can go, last 2 Shabbos ago, had pain, couldn't sleep for 2 nights.
Nebuch.
Here.
Terrible.
Couldn't lie down on my back.
Terrible.
It's insane.
It says that if you couldn't even go to the bathroom for even a second, essentially, you wouldn't do anything.
So, right, very good. It's interesting because very good. The Arizal actually says that if you count up the word, it's 45 words in Asher Yotzar. He says corresponding to Adam, Aleph Daled Mem is 45. Adam, man. So he says, so basically you're thanking Hashem for the fact that you're able to walk around, you're able to be a person. That's very, very important. But when a person is able to say Asher Yotzar, they should really be very, very ecstatic, Baruch Hashem, that they're able to use the bathroom. But a lot of these things, I don't mean to impugn anybody, I don't mean to, I'm not speaking to anybody specific. And, certainly if you're listening and watching this on Torah anytime, I don't know who you are, so I can't be talking about you. But those in the live audience, I'm not talking to anybody. But a lot of this is diet. And the Rebbeinu Shalom was the first innovator, the first pioneer to give the human being a diet, to give the Jew a diet, and tell us that we have to be regimented, we have a prescription, that we should not be gluttonous, we should not eat everything that's within our sight, and we have to be very, very careful how we conduct ourselves. So a lot of, whether it's colitis, Crohn's, any of these things, a lot is controllable to a large extent just by monitoring one's diet and having discipline. The Emes says, Kadoshim Tiyu, some Rishonim, based on some Rishonim, I think the Taicha Kadoshim Tiyu, which is the mandate, the charge for us to be holy, Kadoshim Tiyu means be disciplined. The Jew, really, the mission statement of the Jew, and really the mantra of the Jew, and I think that the tafkid, the purpose of a Jew, is all about teaching the world, but teaching ourselves first discipline, what it means to be a disciplined creature. Because to a degree we are creatures, we have the physiology, we have the biology, 99.4% of an orangutan or chimpanzee. Don't tell that to your spouse, she may be insulted, whatever it is. I'm saying, but we have to understand that the human being is very similar to an extent, but you can never chashom compare the human being to an animal. A human being has a neshama lokus, which makes us a difference not in quantity, because even though it's 99.4, 0.6% difference, it's a difference in quality. We're qualitatively different. We are absolutely not only a higher caliber, but we're a different breed, we're a different species. A human being, especially a Yid. A Yid is divine. The Yid has a neshama lokus, and a Yid is very, very holy. Okay, let's next.
I just want to say, Rabbi Hirsch has, and this was written hundreds of years ago, that there's a Golis, that you didn't have to go through Golis to bring the Kedusha to the Goyim, that they have to see that we live on a higher level and they should learn from us.
Right, Rav Hirsch says, Vayashlichem el eretz acheres k'yom hazeh. He says that the Torah says that God will disperse us, He'll exile us into other lands. Vayashlichem el eretz acheres, He will cast us, He will throw us El Eretz Acharetz into another land, which has been the history of the Jewish people. Throughout every era, we've been in another exile. From the year 250 of the Common Era to 1948, from the modern state of Israel, we were expelled, I think at least, if I'm not mistaken, I think we were in at least...
I just heard this actually.
Every for approximately, if I'm not mistaken, that
in the past 1,700 years, about 80 times.
80 times, yeah. 80 times, which is around 20...
Every 20 years.
Every 22 years, put in another exile. More than 80 expulsions, right? From such nice countries as Lithuania and Portugal and Spain and Poland, and even in America in 1882, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 18. I may have the date wrong, but Ulysses Grant tried to do the expulsion. He called it Order 11. And of course, had he been successful, America would have had to declare Chapter 11. Because any country that that gets the Jews out declares bankruptcy. The Jews always civilize the country and contribute to the financial, to everything in the country. But anyhow, so Vayash Lechem, so Rav Hirsch says that the Lamed, Vayash Lechem, if you look in the Torah, Vayash Lechem, the Lamed is extraordinarily large. It's one of the times that there's a large letter in the Torah. It says because Lamed, Vayash Lechem, is to teach, to serve as a limud. The reason why we're put into exile is that we should be the Lamed. Lamed means limud. We should be the model. We should be the role model. We should be the teachers. We should be the lesson to the goyim. We're put into exile to raise their bar, to raise their morals, to make them understand what it means to be human. Okay, anyhow, so the Lamaisa, that's a psak for colostomy bag. Again, it's a sensitive shaila, and nobody should be in that state of mind or that state of affairs, that state of health. But that would be the halacha lemaisa. Okay, next shaila that came up this week was another sensitive shaila. Somebody called me, said that he invited his neighbor to come for a Shabbos meal. His neighbor's not religious, and the neighbor called up that they would like to bring a fruit salad on Shabbos. Now, in this case, we'll get into another situation. In this case, the person does not live in Brooklyn, which is a saving grace to a degree, because in most out-of-town communities have Eruv, and not Rishus Haram Daraisa. It wouldn't be a public domain. But the person wanted to know if he's allowed to accept and entertain the idea that the person's bringing a fruit salad, the person is not religious, that's coming to visit. Now you have to understand, there's a lot of potential collateral damage that could be induced by rejecting the person. Obviously, I'm sure the person has some intention, aside from the camaraderie and the social element here, of also trying to be makarev, the family that's coming, the people that are coming, the neighbors that are coming. And even if they weren't, the biggest kiruv gurus and experts, every Jew has to be. That's part of our reizan de'etrei. That's what we're here for as Jews, is to bring other Jews back and to bring achdus, unity to the Jewish people. But otherwise, even if that wasn't his, his blatant, explicit intention, but just by not being nice and just by being sort of disrespectful, it puts a bad taste and has detrimental consequences for the neighbor that's coming. And they say, well, that's how Orthodox Jews behave. That's how religious Jews behave. So it's not. It's a big shiloh, and it's potentially it could be fraught with a lot of potential problems. On the other hand, just something very quick. What?
Could be
right, that's what I mean, yeah, could be chaloshim, right. Exactly, precisely, yeah. On the other hand, people have this all the time. You go to office parties, and you have to eat something because if the boss is escorting you or walking around with you, or maybe not be a boss, maybe a colleague or coworker, and they see that you're not eating, you have to be different. They think it's condescending, or they think it's insulting, or they think that you're not me'urav, that you're not integrated. So there's a lot of potential shilas like this, but I'm going to concentrate and focus more on the shilah that came up this week that was asked to me about the neighbor that wants to bring the fruit salad. Now, fruit is kosher. It's one of the beauties of fruits and vegetables. You can't go wrong, right? It's kosher. Now, it happens to be, many people are not familiar with this, but there are many kosher items that don't need a hechsher, that don't need certification. A few months ago, a person called me. He said he was traveling. He wanted to know, and unfortunately, the food did not make it. He brought food with him on the airplane, but his baggage, and I know it's happened to me when I was traveling, it's devastating. Although that's where Hashem comes into the picture. Gam Zulatova, right? This too is for the best, because if you're traveling and your baggage is lost, and you were relying upon whether it's your cans of tuna, sardines, salmon, whatever you were supposed to have, the vacuum pack this or that, and now you're in a alien place, you're in a strange place, and what are you going to eat? You may be in the Mediterranean, you may be in the Bahamas. I don't know where people go, but wherever it is, sometimes you feel stranded. So the fact is that many things are kosher that do not necessarily need kosher certification. Men, right, especially post-football season, beer, domestic beer that's unflavored does not need a hechsher. Now, I don't know how satiating beer is, although it's made from barley, so hops should be satiating. As a matter of fact, some say that beer is healthy, actually. I don't know about the alcohol part of it, but beer doesn't need a hechsher. If it's domestic beer, not international beer would be a problem, according to many shittas, many authorities. But domestic beer that's unflavored is certainly okay. Just to point out also, now this, I don't know if this helps, it's a condiment, let's say like salt, Salt is okay. Sugar, plain sugar is okay. So therefore, if a person, let's say, wants to have a coffee and they're in the airport and they want to have sugar, the sugar does not need a hechsher. Salt, if you want to flavor, your foods, salt doesn't need a hechsher. Even oats. Somebody once called me. He was in a hotel and they had, a package of oats. If the oats are unflavored, unseasoned, they're just unadulterated, just plain oats, and you could take the oats, put hot water into it. You're allowed to eat oats. It doesn't need a hechsher. Honey, if you want to put some honey into that, plain honey, according to most Shitas, I don't think it needs a hechsher either. Cocoa powder. Cocoa powder does not need a hechsher, but if it's, again, I'm not talking about
Pure.
I'm talking about pure, 100% pure, 100% pure cocoa powder.
It's been processed like in a plant.
No, if it's just regular cocoa powder,
But
you don't have to worry.
in a plant, what else are they making?
That's the process.
You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry. If it's cocoa, what's it called? Hot cocoa. The powder that comes hot cocoa that you're not allowed to have. It has to have a hechsher, of course.
What about taloim with the vegetables and the fruit?
Yeah, right. Shkach, very good. Yeah. Cornmeal.
Yeah.
Cornmeal doesn't need a hechsher. According to most Shitas, I don't think cornmeal needs a hechsher. I had that shiloh once. We were buying cornmeal and I couldn't find a hechsher, but cornmeal doesn't, as far as I know, I don't think it needs a hechsher either. So fruit and vegetables, how could you go wrong, right? Well, you could go wrong. Because first of all, if you're dealing with a private person's kitchen, a residential situation, right? A neighbor, a house. So the person is using cutlery, a person's using, let's say, knife to cut the fruit, and that knife may have cut something that wasn't kosher. So you'll say, well, the knife is clean now. The Shach in Yeridea and Sadik Vav is Machmir, where he says, and most poskim bring this down. Shamnunish, Karish, that you have a fatty residue. There's a film, there's a residue on the knife that may be not apparent, that may be invisible, and it actually has an impact upon whatever you're going to cut. So therefore, if that person has cut anything that's not kosher, then they cannot use that knife to cut the fruit, to make the fruit salad. So if a person is not observant, our people that say that they're kosher style, that means that but you can't they don't have any cheskes kashrus. The assumption is that they don't keep kosher. If the assumption is that they don't keep kosher, then you have to assume that the knives that they're using to cut the fruit are not kosher. Also, the surfaces, the cutting boards may be a problem as well. That's A. B, people sometimes put into fruit salad a shredded coconut. Shredded coconut very often has glycerin in it. If it's pure shredded coconut, it may not need a hechsher. But if there's anything that's added to the coconut, it may be a problem. Also, people put in fruit salad, they put in sometimes oils. They put in different types of liquids. And all those things may be a issue, maybe a kashrus issue. But again, even if it was a unvarnished, unadulterated, pure fruit salad, just the cutting alone is a big shiloh. The cutting alone. Now, how do you remove from the knife, the shamnunis? That usually requires ni'itza b'karka. That was the old fable that said that Jews had to bury their knives in flower pots, right? That's not ni'itza b'karka. Ni'itza b'karka means stabbing the knife into the earth 10 times. Some say today, some poskim want to say that just detergent alone, can remove the shamnus b'karka. I don't want to say that for sure. But as far as this shiloh is concerned, you have that issue. Now you have another issue. The other issue is, as was pointed out, that you have a fear, you have to have a real emistic apprehension about taloim. Strawberries, right? People like putting to fruit salad strawberries. Strawberries have to be checked for infestation. And strawberries have to be, many people are not familiar with this, but you're not allowed to, thank you so much. You're not allowed to eat strawberries that are not kosher. And they have to actually be, they have to be prepared in a special way. strawberries, as well as certain types of other fruit. So certainly a irreligious Jew, a non-observant Jew, is not proficient in this. Certainly, he's not even not a proficient. He's not familiar with it. He doesn't know that he has to, scour, the strawberries and do something caustic to it to prepare it for being kosher. It's to be soaked in soap and prepared. So therefore, there's many shilas associated with this. I was very, very reticent, to give any type of heter, in this situation. It's going to make, ill will or chil Hashem. So, he could use, listen, for the sake of shalom, you're allowed to stretch the truth a little. Let him say, I don't know, listen, this is not my job to propose, how to stretch the truth. I try to be as honest and, I try to advocate people should have as much integrity as possible. I'm saying, but if it's you want to be amicable and you want to have shalom, you want to have, peace, and you want them to come. You want to encourage them to come, and this, people can be very, very sensitive about this, especially in today's world. It's a gastronomic society. Everybody takes food very seriously today, so and food is close to one's heart. So I say, you could, the guy could say, who knows what, the guy could come up with excuses. Maybe he could say that his kids are hyper allergic to things, or he has guests that are allergic to certain things. He has to be careful because a lot of times people put nuts into salads, and therefore he has he has a policy where basically, everything has to be, in-house. You got something quick? Yeah.
Really, where do we draw the line where we're trying to encourage people for Shabbos, but they're going to break Shabbos? So where is the line?
Oh, but that's a different. That's a different discussion. That's a very different topic. The guy's not breaking Shabbos at all. He's bringing the fruit within an eruv.
Oh, it's within.
Yeah, within an eruv. Yeah, within an eruv.
The OU has a policy of telling consumers that if it's frozen, strawberries,
Right.
it's frozen, you don't have to have an extra.
Right. It's flash frozen. The flash frozen removes the talum. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So now, as far as as far as this is concerned, another thing is that just to be truthful and to say that we're a kosher home and we just have a little policy that even with religious people, whatever it is, that we don't allow things from the outside unless it comes prepackaged with a kosher certification. But it's very hard to be makel in such a situation. Now, if somebody told me that it was the parent coming and the parent is not religious and the child is religious, about tshuva, then potentially I could come up with a terim that the knife may have been cleaned and it may have gone into some kind of dishwasher situation. But I don't want to say that even because I don't want anybody to be ultra, to have any dispensations or heterim that everything is very unique and very very, very relative to the relative involved. It's relative to the relative involved. Just be very, very careful. But there are situations where maybe be more makel.
Also, the Rav is invited, especially in an out-of-town community. That's what it was in my time. People were not very firm. They were very...
Right.
They invite you to their house.
Right.
It's nice to have the Rav and the Rebbetzin to the house. And I wrote an article in the bulletin. It would be our pleasure. Just call the Rebbetzin. She'll tell you how to provide for us. Nobody ever fault on it.
Okay, good. It's parameters, good fences make for good neighbors. Mark Twain. Okay, good. Okay, very good. Anyhow, so, another shiloh that came up, this wasn't this week, but it came up within the year, was somebody asked me that he invited a colleague from work for Shabbos, and the guy brought he came before Shabbos. I'm sorry, he didn't come before Shabbos. He came on Shabbos with a bottle of wine. That was a Shabbos. He came on Shabbos with a bottle of wine. Now the bottle of wine was kosher, and it was mavushal, it was pasteurized, it was cooked. So, what?
Sealed.
Yeah, there wasn't an issue at all about the kashrus. Kosher wasn't a concern. Shabbos was the concern. Is that the person violated, the person carried, this is in Brooklyn, it's not out of town, and the person brought, he may have, however he got there, it doesn't make a difference, because even if he walked, he trespassed the laws of Rishuyos of carrying on Shabbos. So the bottle of wine, are you allowed to have the bottle of wine on Shabbos? Right? Now, again, you could just, take the bottle of wine and say to the person, thank you so much, we're very honored, we're very touched, we're going to keep this for a really extraordinary special occasion. We don't want to just have it at the ordinary Shabbos dinner, we want to have it for Thanksgiving, Chas v'shalom, it should be more. I was just giving, you want to say it for a birthday or something, then you don't have any issues or problems. But, if in a case where a guy bought you an expensive bottle of wine, he's your colleague, and you can see him at work that week, and he's going to say, gee, I don't like this. This guy, I came to his house, I know something's up. He wouldn't use my bottle of wine. I made sure to go to the kosher wine store and to buy so that's halacha. So the emes is that it's not pashut at all, because there's a farish Shulchan Aruch Shem Teches about somebody that's mechal Shabbos, that let's say cooks for you on Shabbos. And are you allowed to benefit from it? You're allowed to benefit from desecration of Shabbos. There was a Maisha Shabbos. There was an action that happened for you on Shabbos. You're Shabbos observant. How can you benefit from a transgression that occurred on Shabbos? It was a violation that happened on Shabbos. Shabbos desecration happened on Shabbos. So, of course, there's a huge machlokes in the Gemara between Rabbi Yehuda and Meir, right, that if it was done b'mezid, if it was done intentionally, the person knew it was Shabbos, and they cooked for you. And by the way, this happens very often for Bali Tshuva, for students whose parents are not observant and they're observant, and the mother says, honey, I just made for you chicken soup, right? But it's already on Shabbos, right? What do? Ma, I can't have it. She says, but it's kosher, right? Like the chicken's kosher and everything's kosher and the pot was kosher. What's the matter now? Why do you have to make more problems, right? It gets all the time, and then it gets, very, very, very adversarial and, combative. Like, religion is making a division. It's not uniting us, and all these problems, right? All these issues. Anyhow, so Rabbi Yehuda says that if it was done in b'mezid, if it was done intentionally, then it's usher for you to benefit from. For the whole Shabbos, you can't have any benefit from it. And the person the culprit, the person that violated, it's usher for him forever. Right? That's what Rameir says. One second. Rameir says, and if it was done b'shogeg, then if it was done unintentionally, but the person didn't realize, and unintentionally means the person forgot that it was Shabbos, or even Omer Mutter. I think the Bir Halacha brings down a big chiddush. He says even Omer Mutter, where the person rationalized, the person said, no, it's okay. I know it's Shabbos, but this is okay on Shabbos to do, right? All different forms of shogeg, of something unintentional, would be considered to be unintentional in this situation. So unintentional. In Rabbi Yehuda Paskins, it's no good. The whole Shabbos still, even though it's done intentionally, you should not have. But for the culprit, it's mutter for him right after Shabbos. Unlike Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that it would be usher to him, it would be prohibited to him forever, right, penalty. Now remember, when a guy does something for you on Shabbos, you're not allowed to benefit from a guy's actions either for you on Shabbos. Even if you don't ask the guy to do it. But if he's doing it for your direct benefit, it's not like he needs the light on. He knows you need the light on, and he does it for you. It's a problem. So then it's Asr B'Kdei Shiyaseh. Well, it means you have to wait the duration of time that it took for him to perpetrate the chilush, the desecration, the violation of Shabbos. K'dei Shiyaseh. When it comes to, right, so the interesting situation. So therefore, let's say a guy came to pick you up right after Shabbos, and you know that how did he get there? He drove, he put on his ignition on Shabbos. You can't just go into the car right away. Again, there may be different scenarios, different situations, and it may be okay, but in generally speaking, you're not allowed to benefit because he was Mechal Shabbos. On Shabbos, he did it for you. He turned on his ignition, he got into the car. Standard. There are exceptions to the situation. So you have to wait, Kadesh Yasa, the time that it took for him to be Mechal Shabbos. You can't go in the car right away, even though he's a non-Jew. One second. When it comes to a Jew, we don't say Kadesh Yasa. Why? So Mr. Brewer explains, he says, because it comes to a Jew violating Shabbos, it's something that is out of the ordinary. It's something that is more exceptional. It's something that is not, it doesn't happen as frequently, and therefore you don't have to put the knas. Right? However, there are poskim and many achronim speak about this, whether or not the same halach would apply to somebody who's not religious. A Jew that's not religious, who it is protocol for him, so to speak. It's something that is within the realm of ordinary, where he's violating Shabbos. Maybe you should have to wait K'dei Shiyaseh after he does the malacha on Shabbos. Okay, in this situation though, where the guy brought a bottle of wine, so there's a famous sheet in the Rishonim, Rabbeinu Yoin and the Ritva bring down a heter. And the Bir Halacha actually speaks about it. And he says that when do we say a Chil Shabbos would forbid you from benefiting from the malacha on Shabbos? That's when there's a transformation in an object. You planted something you cooked something. You actually caused a change within an object. The object is not the same. However, if you transport an object, you are absolutely not impacting that object whatsoever. There's no change within the chefsa. There's no transformation at all. There's no metamorphosis. Nothing is occurring. And therefore, Rabbeinu Yonah and the Ritva, they say that since there's no change, it may not be the same chumrah as Rabbi Yehuda and Meir are referring to. However, the Tosfos, the Ramban, and the Rashba, they all very vehemently argue against the Rabbeinu Yonah and the Ritva, and they say that even if there's no change in the object itself, but the object entailed Chilul Shabbos, then it would be Asr. It would not be Mutter. However, if it was a situation of shogeg, where the person was not aware that it was forbidden to do, most irreligious Jews, most non-observant Jews have no idea that carrying on Shabbos is forbidden. They may know driving is forbidden on Shabbos. They may be or turning on a light. Some of them may know. Many of them don't even know that. But certainly carrying, and the carrying does not cause any effect or any transformation within the actual object. Therefore, there is reason to be, according to the Bir Halacha, and there is certainly latitude to be makel in such a situation. So I'm not saying that a person should be makel in a situation. I'm saying you should ask a shaila. It's very important to ask a shaila. But if it's going to cause humiliation, if it's going to cause a shaila of ava, where it may cause enmity, and it may cause, like we said, collateral type of damage, it may have ramifications later on, then if it's a case of shogeg and it was just carried, it wasn't, let's say, something that was cooked, and there may be room to be makel in such a situation. There may be room to be matzah.
The end product.
Yeah.
Affected.
I'm sorry.
The end product is not affected. The end product is a bottle of wine. The wine wasn't mevushal on Shabbos. It wasn't. It was a bottle of wine.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what we said.
The other case is he was doing something on Shabbos. There was a ma'aseh done.
Right. Precisely. That's right. That's why that's what I'm saying that it could be. No, that's why I said that it could be samech on the Bir Halacha potentially for such a situation. I just want to point out, by the way, that the shiloh about the fruit salad would be different in Eretz Yisrael. Yeah. That's very important to mention because you have tithing, you have Trumas and Maasros. The tithes have to be taken care of. Not only that, but also Arla. Most people are not familiar, and we're going to get to that in a minute about Tu B'Shvat, because somebody asked me last night, interesting shiloh about Tu B'Shvat. But as far as I'm sorry, what? Right. So Arla is that a tree, you cannot benefit from a tree. The first 3 years, even the fourth year is Neta Ravai, would also be prescription. But the first 3 years, certainly of its growth, you're not allowed to have benefit from it. That is Midaraisa in Eretz Yisrael, it's biblical. In Chutz La'aretz, it's Halacha Moshe Messinai. And because it's Halacha Moshe Messinai, the Rambam, the Rashba, the Rishonim speak out that even though Halacha Moshe Messinai should be as chomer, it should be as stringent as the Daraisa, does not have the din of a rabbinic. But in regards to this, in regards to a suffix, in regards to a doubt, we say that a doubt in Arla, in Chutz La'aretz, in diaspora, would be mutter. And that's, by the way, I mean, you ever think about it? How are you allowed to peruse, how are you allowed to go shopping in a supermarket, in a grocery, in Chutz La'aretz? I mean, think about it. How are you allowed to go shopping? I mean, why don't I have to suspect that the orange that I'm buying, or the apples that I'm buying, were from Arla? And it's a big heter, it's a big chiddush, but the heter in the chiddush is that I don't have to be. That has a din of suffix. That even though it may very well be from Arla, but since I don't know that it's from Arla, then you could be samech on the fact, what?
The guy owns the...
Sorry?
The guy owns the orchard.
It doesn't make a difference. Doesn't make a difference. Yeah. So I'm saying, so therefore you have, think about it. Every time we go to a supermarket, grocery, how do you know that it's not Arla? You don't know. So since you don't know, it's okay. Now the Chazon Ish holds a big chiddush, but I don't think we pass like him in Eretz Yisrael. The Chazon Ish says that in Eretz Yisrael maybe you can rely upon Roiv. Now even though his suffix, I think Rabbi Yashar Shalom Zalman don't hold like the Chazon Ish because they say that you can't go according to majority fruit in Eretz Yisrael, assume that it's not Arla because it's kavua, and kol kavua kamechsa mechsa. It's like considered to be an equal doubt, and but that's a big tumult in Eretz Yisrael. But
Fruit is not kavua.
I'm sorry, what?
Fruit is kavua, but not fruit.
But the fruit, it could be considered to be kavua as well. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's a Mishnah Melech. The Mishnah Melech on the Rambam wants to say that since the Kedusha in Eretz Yisrael, since there was a kivush, right, there was a conquest of Eretz Yisrael, but there's a machlokas whether or not the Kivsh Rishona, Kivsh Shnia, whether it lost the sanctity, Eretz Yisrael lost the sanctity, a certain type of sanctity, and therefore he wants to say that since to some Rishonim the hold that the sanctity was voided in Eretz Yisrael, therefore he says that even in Eretz Yisrael, a suffix Arla would be mutter. We don't pass it like that though. It's a Mishnah Melch, very, very, very controversial, very radical and innovative Mishnah Melch. We don't pass it like that though. But in Eretz Yisrael, though, certainly fruit salad would be a very, very big problem, would be a much greater concern than it is over here. Which leads us to the last Shiloh of the day. The last Shiloh of the day, somebody called last night, interesting Shiloh about Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat Higiya, tonight Be'ez Hashem. There's a great simcha. It's a great yontif. According to the Gra, it calls it a yontif. Others don't call it a yontif. Al Pi Kabbalah, it's brought down, and the Darkei Chaim V'Sholem brings down that it's a mitzvah to have on Tu B'Shvat to have fruits, especially fruits from the Shiva from the 7 species that Eretz Yisrael is glorified and praised about. But Tu B'Shvat is basically the resurgence, the emergence of. Well, the sap comes in. The sap is almost, it looks like it's dormant, but you don't see it. It's not transparent. You don't see it, but the sap is traveling, and the emergence from the winter, now the spring, the trees are blossoming, and it's hope. It gives hope again. Al Pi Kabbalah, it's brought down, very metaphysical, that it is analogous to Mashiach, that even when things seem to be miserable and even things seem to be dark and bleak, you don't see the sap traveling. So too, you don't see the messianic, you don't see the redemption coming, but it's traveling, it's coming, things are getting better. Right, the sun is going to be shining again. Spring is closer. Spring is coming. The trees are going to be blooming and blossoming again. So it's a time of great hope, of great fervor, of great promise. And also, the fact is that the reason why the Gra calls it a Yontif is because the Mishnah says, Arba Rosh Hashanah, there are 4 Rosh Hashanahs, there are 4 New Years. You can tell all your secular contemporaries and colleagues, you say, you have New Year's on January 1st? We have 4 New Years. Can you imagine that? What could be better than being Jewish? Always a reason to celebrate, always a reason to party, Baruch Hashem. 4 New Years, right? There's a New Year for animals, there's a New Year for kings, there's a New Year for trees, there's a New Year for people. Rosh Hashanah, of course, Aleph Tishrei, Aleph Elul, Aleph Nisan, and Chamisha Asar B'Shvat. Chamisha B'Shvat is the New Year for trees. I think they say that the Panovitcher Rav, or some say, I think the Satmar Rebbe also, that when on Tu B'Shvat they used to go to the tree, hug the tree and say, Agud Yantiv, Paimala, right? They give Yantiv to the tree, happy birthday to the tree. But also Halacha L'maisa has a lot of halachas, because how do you determine Arla? How do you determine all these, the tithes, when a tree has its birthday? When you count the 3 years or the 4 years? When you count all the Meiser, the 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th year, the 3rd, right? The 1st, 2nd, 4th, 5th year, you have to bring a certain time of Meiser. How do you know? It all goes Basar, it all goes according to Tu B'Shvat. Okay, so Halavai B'Shem, it should be Nogea to us. Unfortunately, living in America, really, it's not germane to us, it's not really relevant to us, but we should definitely celebrate Tu B'Shvat, starting by Mincha today, according to most places. It's not so pashut. But do you say Tachanun today? By Mincha, it's not so pashut. The Shulchan Aruch is mashma that from the mashmos of the Shulchan Aruch is that l'char you would say, but the mashmos from the Shulchan Aruch Harav, and from I think the Mishnah Berurah as well, and from other Achronim, is that you would not say Tachanun Erev Tu B'Shvat. It's considered to be bona fide, it's considered to be like, the real legitimate type of Yontif, where even Erev, you wouldn't say, so we paskin that we don't say Erev Tu B'Shvat, we won't say by Mincha Tachanun, and one should have Paris, one should have fruits. It's also brought down that one should make a shechianu. Many shitas, many poskim do bring this down, that one should try to make a shechianu. The same way you make a shechianu the second night of Rosh Hashanah, you should also make a shechianu on fruit. So somebody called me last night and said, "What do we really make a shechianu?" And the answer is, it's not so posh. It's very, very complicated, very challenging. Because the halacha is, in order to make a shechianu, you have to have a fruit that's in season, that only comes out, that is available now. But it wasn't available Kol Hashana Kula. It wasn't available the entire year. Today, with advances in agriculture, I'm sorry? Right. Today, with advances in agricultural techniques and technology and refrigeration and transportation shipping, it's very hard to find the fruit that, unless you're living in some obscure, this reclusive person living in some obscure, place on earth, right? It's very hard to find such a situation where you don't have fruits that are just readily available. So I think in Eretz Yisrael they say that cherries may be and pears may be, but it's hard. I'm sorry.
We have them here.
Right, it's hard to find. Now, there is a psak that's based on a Mishnah Berurah and the Piskei Teshuvos that if it's only available, if it's not rampant, and it's not mamish universally available, but it's only available, let's say, in a specialty type of store, then ken zayin efsher, then you can make a bracha, saving grace. You can make a shechianu, because so Moshe actually used to make every Tu B'Shvat, he used to make a shechianu on baksa, and the reason why he made a shechianu on baksa is carob. All right, it's the not the processed carob. It's a carob that grows off of the tree, and you have to have very strong teeth to be able to bite into it. Although so sometimes actually, I think we served it here on Tu B'Shvat.
I had it at Ari Siegel's maybe.
Okay, so he just became world famous. Okay, but we served it at BGX. We served baksa on Tu B'Shvat, but they have in Eretz Yisrael they have places where it's actually soft, it's fresh, and it could be very tasty. But carob. So the fact is that baksa, Ramosha said that the reason why he made on baksa, he says, because he knew that he didn't have it all year long. There was no suffix in his mind. He had it last year, Tu B'Shvat. It's one of those traditional foods. When I was a kid in yeshiva, what did they give us? They always gave us baksa on Tu B'Shvat, right? It was once a year that you had to break your teeth, okay? Once a year. But the funny thing is, shechianu is supposed to be simcha. That's why many people don't make it on vegetables, even though you could make it on vegetables, but it's supposed to be simcha. And vegetables, you don't have the same simcha. Although melons, you could make a shechianu. But baksa, I don't know how much simcha you have because it's not so edible. It depends on how edible it is. So if you have a fruit that's only sold in a specialty store and it's hard to come by, even though it's sold, let's say, in a specialty store in Flatbush, but it's still, or wherever you are throughout the world, then you could, according to many poskim, you could make a shechianu. As far as if it is available, but you have a breed of it or a species, a sampling of it that is fresher and tastier and better than what is generally available, that's another excuse to be able to make a shechianu. So if anybody has an insight, anybody has any advice about what fruit we can actually make a shechianu on tonight or tomorrow, please, by all means, give us a referral, give us a recommendation.
People say star fruit.
Star fruit is not.
During the year.
But if it's available, it's available. All right, so it's a little complicated.
What if it's something that's available, but you can go and pick it fresh, let's say?
Okay, so again, if it would be enhanced, and it would be something that would be considered more luxurious and more extravagant for you because it's, then that may, according to some poskim, that would be okay.
What if it's part of a fruit, let's say an apple, but a certain apple you've never had?
Oh.
Is that possible?
That's okay. Excellent child. The poskim say it's okay. Yeah. Excellent point. Yes. So if it's a different type of species of, yes. So Bez Hashem Yisbarach, we should be Zocha Bez Hashem to having a good Tu B'Shvat and to realize that Ki Adam Eitz HaSadeh, that the tree, that man, the reason why Tu B'Shvat is celebrated Al Pi Kabbalah in such a festive way, you go to Rebbe's, we have Big Tishin, is because Ki Adam Eitz HaSadeh, is because the human being is considered to be compared, analogous to the tree. And the same way the tree shelters, the same way the tree provides, the same way the tree grows and sprouts and gives forth fruit, on Tu B'Shvat, our focus should be about providing. How to provide for others. How to give as much tzedakah as possible. How to be caring for others. How to give shelter to others. Not to be selfish, but to be selfless. And not to say, well, he's not like me, she's not like me, I don't care. No. That's not a Jewish attitude. It's not Jewish perspective. Jewish perspective, they say about Rav Chaim Sanz. Rav Chaim Sanz, he gave away everything he ever had. All the time, he gave away whatever he had. So there's a famous story about Rav Chaim Sanz. That one year, he didn't even have a menorah because he sold his menorah in order to give a dowry for a kala. So a chassid was traveling. The chassid was coming from Dinov, if I'm not mistaken. And the chassid said, the Rebbe doesn't have menorah for Hanukkah. He saw that he wasn't lighting a menorah. He didn't have menorah. Imagine, wasn't lighting menorah. So he went and he bought him a gorgeous, stunning silver menorah, right? This week's parsha, past week's parsha, Zeh Kelev Aveyu. This is my God, I will glorify him. Asnal l'fanav b'mitzvahs, to go ahead and to, when you're buying a car, right, you examine that car, you want to make sure that it's pristine, that everything's beautiful about it. Lahavdil alef dollars. When you're getting tefillin, when you're getting any mitzvah, you better put emphasis into that mitzvah. Otherwise, God one day is going to look at you after 120 years and he's going to say, "You hypocrite. You fool, you put so much emphasis into material objects, into what kind of chandelier you're going to have in your house, what kind of paint you're going to use for your house. And when it came to doing tzedakah, when it came to doing mitzvahs, you put such little emphasis into it. He says, you're not going to be buried with your chandelier, it's not going to take you anywhere. So the guy brought Rechaim Sanz, this gorgeous, elaborate, and he lights the menorah. And right after he lights the menorah, he's singing Mosor, and somebody comes on the door, banging the door, and says, Rebbe, he says, I have a tremendous sorrow, I have a tremendous need, I need money, the child Nebuch was sick, and this and that. And Rechaim Sanz went ahead, he went to a silversmith, he pawned the menorah, and the guy that was traveling, that was visiting him, he was devastated. He says, Rebbe, where's the menorah? I spent so much money on it. So he says, what do you mean? Somebody needed money for refuah. He says, I don't understand. He says, you don't care about your menorah? He says, Rebbe, this is my Rebbe, where I come from. He says that every Matzei Sukkos, he takes out his menorah to get ready for Hanukkah, and he cleans it, and he has such an avodah. He spends so many hours. And he says to him, I guess by your Rebbe, he says, the menorah is more precious than a yid. He says, by me, a yid is more precious than a menorah. I'm paraphrasing, I'm not doing justice to his retort, to his attitude, but that's what he said. And that's a lesson, it's a Musar Haskell, to be a tree. To be a tree means to think about others as much as possible, and to encompass others, and to try to do the kiruv. It's very, very important to makarv as many yidden as possible, because the only way that is get us out of this galus without a nuclear war, God forbid. All right, the Zohar Kodesh says that, Arizal says, they all say it, is if we reunite the Jewish people and show love to our fellow Jews, no matter how distant they are, that's what's going to get us out of this mess. So, everybody, everybody. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.